Let's get real for a moment. We've all been there, creating an assessment we think is rock solid, only to find out it doesn't quite fit the diverse learning styles and backgrounds in our classroom. Frustrating, right? But here's the good news. Making your assessments more inclusive doesn't have to be a Herculean task. In fact, I've got a list of the top 5 techniques for making assessments more inclusive that can transform your approach and make sure every student gets a fair shake. So, if you want to level the playing field and truly engage with each and every student, keep watching. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. My name is Scott, and you're watching Immediate Immersion, where we're all about comprehension-based instruction in the modern language classroom. We'll be right back. You know Universal Design for Learning, UDL, is one of those buzzwords that gets thrown around a lot. But it's got some serious substance behind it. At its core, UDL is all about designing your teaching methods and materials in a way that can be accessed by many people as possible. Now, when it comes to assessment, UDL can be a real game changer. Traditional assessments often focus solely on the end goal, say, getting the right answer on a multiple choice test. UDL, however, nudges us to think about the how and the why of learning, not just the what. This means crafting assessments that offer multiple means of engagement. For instance, instead of just reading a passage and answering questions, what if students could also watch a video or participate in a group discussion to demonstrate their understanding? Diverse engagement options like these take into account that not all students express their comprehension in the same way. And let's talk about representation. We've all got those visual learners, those auditory learners, and those who learn best through hands-on activities. UDL encourages us to allow different forms of representation in our classrooms. Imagine offering a choice between a traditional written report, an oral presentation, and a multimedia project. Now you're speaking everyone's language. And lastly, the whole idea of providing multiple avenues for action and expression is pretty stellar. Whether it's through writing, speaking, drawing, or even acting out a concept, the more ways students can show what they know, the better. This isn't about making assessments easier, it's about making them fairer. And isn't that what we're all aiming for? Formative assessments are the unsung heroes of the classroom. Now, before we dive in, let's clear up some terminology. Summative assessments are those big ones. Think final exams, standardized tests, or major projects. Formative assessments, on the other hand, are those ongoing checks we do to see how the learning is developing. They're the intermittent checks that tell us whether we need to adapt the lesson before the summative assessment. Now, why are formative assessments so great for diverse classrooms? Simple. They're like tiny diagnostic tools that give us a real-time pulse on student understanding. They tell us who's getting it, who's almost there, and who needs more support. That way, we can adjust our instruction on the fly instead of waiting until it's too late to make meaningful changes. Formative assessments are also awesome because they're super flexible. From quick quizzes and exit tickets to peer and self-assessments, the options are pretty much endless. Ever tried an exit ticket where students jot down one thing they learned and one question they still have? It's a goldmine for understanding where your students are at. And let's not forget about the power of immediate feedback. When students get real-time input on their performance, it's empowering. They can adjust their strategies, refocus their efforts, and actually take charge of their own learning. Gone are the days when they just receive a grade and move on without understanding their mistakes. With formative assessments and immediate feedback, we're nurturing students to become active participants in their education, not just passive consumers. Student choice is where the magic really happens. Giving students agency in their assessments is like giving them the keys to their own educational journey. No longer are they just passengers on a one-route bus. They've got a say in the direction they're going. And that, my friends, is incredibly empowering. Let's face it, our classrooms are filled with a rich tapestry of learning styles, interests, and talents. Offering choices in assessments acknowledges that diversity and gives students a chance to shine in their own unique way. For instance, when you allow students to choose between a written report and an oral presentation, you're basically telling them, hey, I recognize that you may excel in different formats, and that's cool. The auditory learners, the wordsmiths, the public speakers, they all get a chance to strut their stuff. Project-based assessments are another solid option. You might offer a menu of projects that tap into various skills. Maybe a video project for the tech-savvy, a detailed written report for the research aficionados, or a hands-on model for the tactile learners. And the beauty of it? They're all assessing the same core objectives, just through different lenses. And let's not overlook the power of letting students choose their own topics for research or discussion. I mean, who wouldn't be more invested if they're exploring a subject they're actually passionate about? It's a win-win. Students are more engaged, and their projects often end up being more in-depth and insightful. Incorporating choice doesn't mean you're diluting the assessments or making them a free-for-all. You're just leveling the playing field and allowing each student to showcase their understanding in a way that resonates with them. And when students feel like they have a stake in their own assessment, you better believe they're going to be more motivated to knock it out of the park. You know, it's easy to forget that every student walks into the classroom with their own unique cultural background. We can get so wrapped up in curriculum and grading that we overlook how important it is to make our assessments culturally responsive. So what does that mean exactly? Essentially, it's about ensuring that your assessments are fair and accessible to students from all cultural backgrounds. No barriers, no unintentional biases, just a clean, equitable slate for everyone to show what they've got. Why does this matter? Well, imagine you're a student encountering a question that references a cultural experience you're not familiar with. You'd feel disadvantaged. Avoiding culturally biased questions is a basic step, but an essential one. We're here to assess what students know, not what they don't know because of their cultural background. And it's not just about what to avoid, it's also about what to include. Incorporating diverse perspectives and test materials can make the assessments more engaging and relevant to all students. Think about using examples, narratives, or case studies from various cultures when crafting these questions. This does double duty. It makes your assessment more inclusive and serves as a learning experience for your students, broadening their understanding of the world. Language accessibility is another major factor. If you have English language learners in your class, make sure your assessments aren't just testing their language skills. Unless, of course, it's a language assessment. Use clear, straightforward language and consider offering glossaries or translation aids for complex terms. The end game here is not just to make assessments what are culturally sensitive. We're aiming to create a sense of belonging for all students, making sure they feel seen and respected. Are you tired of assessments that just don't measure up? Feeling stuck in a grading rut or worried you're not reaching all of your students effectively? Then listen up, educators. It's time to elevate your assessment game with Immediate Immersion's Assessment Academy. Why join? Well, we're taking a deep dive into everything you need to know to create assessments that are inclusive, engaging, and dare we say it, enjoyable. Yes, we went there. From giving proper feedback to writing effective rubrics, we cover it all. Learn how to implement formative assessments that give real-time insights, or master the art of leveling and scaffolding to meet all of your students right where they are. The best part? This isn't just theory. We're talking actionable tips and tricks that you can implement in your classroom right away. Plus, You'll be learning from a teacher who lives and breathes effective teaching strategies every day. So why wait? Make this the year your assessments go from meh to marvelous. Head to mm.us/academy to secure your spot now. Your future self and your students will thank you. I know you've heard the terms leveling and scaffolding tossed around in faculty meetings and professional development sessions. But let's break down what that really means for assessments. Leveling is about creating assessments with questions or tasks that range in difficulty to accommodate different proficiency levels. You don't want to demoralize your struggling learners with an impossible task, nor do you want to bore your high achievers with something too easy. It's all about finding that Goldilocks zone where every student is challenged just enough. Scaffolding, on the other hand, is a bit like building a complex structure, one layer at a time. You break down complex tasks into smaller, more manageable parts to help students climb up to the level of mastery. It's essentially saying, hey, I know this is challenging, but let's tackle it step by step. For example, if you're asking students to write a research paper, don't just slap down a due date for the final product. Consider breaking it into chunks: topic selection, outline, first draft, etc., with due dates for each. Providing rubrics or frameworks can serve as the blueprint for these smaller tasks, guiding students on what you're expecting at each stage. Now here's where ongoing teacher support comes into play. Leveling and scaffolding are not set it and forget it strategies. They require you to actively monitor, give feedback, and adjust as needed. Maybe you notice a student breezing through the initial levels. You can offer some enrichment tasks to keep them engaged. Or perhaps someone is struggling despite the scaffolds. You can step in with some targeted support or even adapt the task to better suit their needs. Incorporating leveling and scaffolding into your assessments turns you into more than just a teacher. You become a guide, a mentor, someone who's actively invested in each student's learning journey. All right, so there you have it. The top 5 techniques for making your assessments more inclusive and fair for all of your students. Remember, the end goal is not just to grade, but to understand, inspire, and foster growth in each individual learner. Taking steps to level the playing field through these techniques will not only enrich your students' educational experience, but also make your job as an educator more fulfilling. Give these strategies a try in your next assessment. You might be surprised at how small changes can make a big impact. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like this video. Subscribe to our channel for more teaching inspiration, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new video. Until next time, happy comprehensible input.